Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our October LEA Special Education Point of Contact monthly webinar. A PDF version of today's presentation is available in the handout section in GoToWebinar. We'll go ahead and wait a few more minutes for folks to join us, but please feel free to download the PDF. Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you for joining us for our October LEA Special Education Point of Contact monthly webinar. A copy of today's presentation can be found through GoToWebinar. To access the PDF version, expand the handouts menu on the dashboard toolbox. Okay. Let's go ahead and dig in. My name is Karen Morgan Donaldson. I'm the manager of IDEA Monitoring Compliance here at OSSE, and I will be leading today's presentation. Here's an overview of our agenda today. We have a couple policy reminders and updates. We also have some IDEA monitoring reminders and updates as well. We have some assessment updates. We also have some special education data system or SEDS reminders and updates, transportation updates, and of course, we always have reminders and announcements. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Christy Weaver-Harris, who will provide some policy reminders and updates.
Good morning, everybody. This is Christy Weaver-Harris. I'm the Policy Manager in the Division of K-12 Systems and Supports in the Office of Special Education. I'm going to talk a little bit today about some things we have going on in the policy world. Next slide. So as a reminder, on July 1, the new special education regulations went into effect. You can review the new regulations on our Law and Regulations page. We have them there in a PDF, which is a lot easier to read if you go directly to the DC Reg site, which you have to like download each section. We also have a Chapter 30 resources page, which right now has disability worksheets and actually a lot of recorded video trainings on new requirements under Chapter 30. These are new since we last met. So we have an overview of Chapter 30 training, individual modules on each disability category, and we have a training on seclusion and restraint requirements that I'll be posting in the next week or so. So these trainings are recorded webinars that are presented through GoToWebinar, and they include a short post-training survey. It's like 5 or 6 questions. I would really appreciate it if you could complete that after you watch these videos. So the overview training is like 40-ish minutes. The disability categories trainings are on each disability category and range from like 3 minutes to 10 minutes. So it's a really like a choose your own adventure type situation. And if you are in reviewing the new regulations, if you come across topics that you would like to see trainings on, please feel free to reach out to me directly and my team can work on developing that. Next slide, please. So the IDEA parent survey for the 21-22 school year, so for last year, will be released by next week. We collect the survey data and as part of the annual performance report, or APR, report that data to the U.S. Department of Education. And that's the % of parents who report that schools facilitated parent involvement as a means of improving services and results for students with disabilities. Last year, OSSE sent direct text messages to parents, which was a pretty successful outreach activity. But you guys are our first line of defense, our first line of communication with parents. So we are asking for your assistance in disseminating the survey this year. Just like we did last year, we'll have some sample language that you can use in emails or school newsletters, some like graphics you can use, and those resources will be posted on our website in the next 2 weeks or so. We also have most of those resources and the survey are translated into the top 6 languages. So all of those resources are fully accessible for parents. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to me directly. My team manages the IDA parent survey. Next slide. I think that's it for me today. I'll also be keeping an eye on the questions box throughout the webinar. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in there and we will answer them at the end of the webinar.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, again, this is Karen Morgan Donaldson. I have several slides on IDEA monitoring activities that are happening right now. And my first slide is an overview of all of the reports that are currently open in DC CATS. So we currently have 4 open reports. This gives you an idea of the name of the report. It gives you the date of the notification, which means the date that the finding was issued to your LEA. It also gives you a date when prong 1 is or was due, and then prong 2, the date for when prong 2 is due. So please take a look at this. And after this webinar, if you could please log into DC CATS and reference any open reports that your LEA might have while looking at these dates. If you have any specific questions, please reach out to your IDEA monitor, Deborah Melville, and her email is included on this slide. Federal fiscal year 20 IDEA determinations were issued last week on October 11th. All LEA SPED POCs and LEA leaders have access to the IDEA determinations application in QuickBase. There is a link to the application on this slide. If you do not have access, please reach out to me directly and I will troubleshoot that for you so we can make sure that you can get into the system and see your LEA's determination. Once you're in the system, you can access all of your LEA's underlying data by using the underlying data tab. You can also view your LEA's overview of IDEA determination, which is, of course, your LEA's overall score for IDEA determinations. The reason why I am focusing on the underlying data tab is we are currently in the appeals window for IDEA determinations. So please go ahead and take a look at your underlying data tab. And if you have any concerns, and if you think there is an error in your underlying data, please file an appeal through the QuickBase application using the appeals tab. So the 30-day appeal window closes on November 11th. We are really encouraging LEAs to dig into their data. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. So please take a look at your data. And if you see anything that is an error, we really would like to hear from you through the appeal process. So for more information on IDEA determinations, as an overview, we have a pre-recorded webinar that you can access via the link on this slide that kind of just gives you an idea of how the application works. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. Special Education Performance Report, or SEPR, which is the district's new accountability framework, which is results-based, is being rolled out. We will be holding one additional SEPR office hours this Friday, October 21st from 11 to noon. Please join me in as I provide an overview of the SEPR. So if you would like to join, please just email me directly and I will send you an invitation to that, those office hours. And basically, it's a walkthrough of the framework. It's pretty low key and casual. I walk through the framework and answer any questions that you might have. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dawn Hilton, who will be presenting this slide on child outcome summary.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Hilton, and I am the 619 coordinator with the Office of K-12. OSSE has completed a review of the cost data submitted by LEAs through DC CATS in June of 2020. The data recorded in DC CATS is used to monitor the overall effectiveness of the early childhood special education programs and later reported to the U.S. Department of Education. Office of Special Education Programs, OSSEP. LEAs with noted discrepancies were notified via email, and a list of these discrepancies have been uploaded in your LEA's OSSE box accounts. If you have not received an email notification, then your LEA's records were accurate, so there are no additional steps needed. It is important that a record is created in DC CATS, and entry and exit scores are submitted for every child who is or did receive preschool special education services. This includes students who have already exited preschool but received services for at least 6 months. A promotion to kindergarten does not exclude a child from this requirement because OSSE is still required to report the outcomes of that specific child's programming. When reviewing your list, you may notice that names of children whose initial special education services began at the start of this current school year. These specific children were included in the June 2022 data because they were determined eligible for special education services and an IEP was finalized in SEDS prior to the child's stage 5 enrollment. In these situations, the LEA has 90 days to create the record in DC CATS and submit entry scores. OSSE is requesting action from each LEA by Friday, December 30th of 2022. If you have any questions, please use the email address that you see on your screen, or you may reach out to me directly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Okay, moving right along, we have a couple assessment updates for you today. So OSSE has began the approving process for approving students who are eligible for the alternate assessment. So OSSE is in the process of approving these and reviewing files and SEDS right now. The OSSE will send final eligibility determinations to LEAs and SEDS November 21st. LEAs will have an opportunity to appeal any decisions that are made. The time frame for that is November 22nd to December 16th. And then OSSE will provide LEAs appealed eligibility determinations by January 9th. Just a quick overview of what our alternate assessment is. The district uses the multi-state alternate assessment for its alternate assessment. It's a comprehensive assessment system designed to promote increasing higher academic outcomes for students with significant cognitive disabilities. It's administered annually in the areas of ELA and math to students in grades 3 through 8 and also 11th grade. This particular assessment is used by 11 states and territories. The assessment measures what students know and how they can perform in relation to alternate achievement standards. The stage adaptive design allows students to interact with items that will more accurately reflect the student's abilities. Our next slide provides information about when the actual testing will take place. First, a virtual webinar focusing on the test administration of MSAA. and the responsibilities of staff will take place on Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. And then the self-paced testing, it is required self-paced training for TCs and TAs available in the MSA system. This will take place in late February, and this date has yet to be announced. If you have any questions related to MSAA or ALT assessment, you can reach out to Assad Folsom, and I will provide his email in the chat. He could not be here today. In addition, we have some information related to testing accommodations policy for school year 22-23. The testing accommodation guides will be available in October, including testing accommodations for students with disabilities, for EL, for English language learner students, and then accessibility features and administrative considerations guides for all students. So these guides will provide an overview of the accommodations, accessibility features, and administrative considerations available to students who are participating in this spring's statewide assessments. And it also includes a crosswalk for aligning special education accommodations in SEDS to accommodations that students can receive via the statewide assessments. So all testing accommodation guides will be posted on the OSSE website as soon as they are available. Okay, moving right along, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Rita Larkins, who will be providing special education data system, SEDS reminders and updates.
Good morning, and thank you, Karen. As Karen said, my name is Rita Larkins in the Office of the CIO here at OSSE, and I will be providing some SEDS updates and reminders. In the next slide, we have a quick update about the eligibility worksheets, specifically the multiple disabilities worksheets. So rules of completion have been updated. So if you had problems in the past finalizing eligibility due to the changes in the worksheet, that has been updated. So you can move forward with any finalizations of eligibilities. Next slide. We've mentioned this before. I think it's important to mention it again here, is that account management. We want to make sure that you are reminded to not make changes to any of the OSSE state level roles. Again, changes to these accounts, state level user roles significantly impacts our ability to assist you in SED. So please do not change any of those state user roles. Next slide. Want to also remind our SPED POCs and as a reminder to your users that users should not be reaching out to PCG for support. So that is the vendor for SEDS. So none of the users at LEA should be contacting that vendor directly. LEAs are responsible for providing support to their users at the LEA. So those folks would be escalating those issues to you, and then in turn, you can put in an OST ticket. So again, it's never appropriate for LEAs staff of any level to reach out to the SEDS vendor. And then again, users are encouraged to open OST tickets for support and technical assistance. Next slide. So I want to talk just briefly about SEDS 2.0 and the LEA engagement. And I really want to thank all of you, our LEA partners, SPED POCs, and providers for your participation in the engagement sessions. And we know our LEAs are really a reservoir of knowledge and information. We want to thank you all because you've been critical in the progress of this project. So people are asking, how is the feedback used? We want you to be aware that the feedback is regularly referred to ensure that that is informing our decisions about programming and configuration in the new PowerSchool special programs. So we've had more than 15 now engagement sessions with over 200 participants from LEAs. And that also includes the session we previously had for related service providers. So again, we thank you for your participation. Next slide. Our upcoming LEA engagement session is on October 20th, and then we'll have another session, I believe, in November. So we are nearing the end of the LEA engagement sessions. Just want to make sure that folks have had an opportunity to participate. And thank you. I will transition it back over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Rita. Next on our agenda are transportation updates. Kyle Flood will be presenting these slides.
You can go to the next slide, please. And Stephanie Davis, I believe, will start us off.
That's correct, Kyle. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone on the call. So just a refresher and reminder that for transportation request forms, we will continue to utilize the integrated data submission tool. And we want to remind everyone, because this is still occurring for consideration, that Section 504 students requiring transportation services must be identified as 504 in the LEA student information system prior to submitting the TRF. We need at least 1 day before you submit the TRF for that student to be identified as a 504 students in all downstream systems. So please make sure that you update and connect with your LEA data manager or register to ensure the students are appropriately identified. And then just make sure that you review the days of the week needed for both morning and afternoon service for accuracy, and then register for upcoming trainings at the OSSE training registration site. And as we stated last month, we're still working on a front-end user interface that will allow you, the LEA, to create and edit individual students' records without the submission of a file. That is still in progress and being utilized. Next slide, please. So this is going to tie into why Kyle is here with us today from our Division of Health and Wellness. But just to reiterate that if you need to pause or resume transportation services, you would need to notify OSSE DOT at dotcriticalinfo@dc.gov. And to make emergency service adjustments for individual students, please contact our parent call center at the number listed, and all other inquiries by an LEA should be submitted via the OSSE support tool. I will answer questions in the chat directly while Kyle walks us through the next slide. So next slide, please.
Yes, good morning. My name is Kyle Flood. I'm with the Division of Health and Wellness here at OSSE. And I wanted to speak a little bit about the transportation protocols specific to immunization noncompliance. So as folks might be aware, when a student has been determined by the school that they are missing their immunizations, and the student has been given their fair warning, their 20 days or more of notification to submit that documentation, but it's still missing, and they need to be temporarily removed due to that noncompliance, that as a part of notifying the family of that temporary removal for noncompliance, the LEA should ensure that you're also notifying OSSE DOT of that removal if that student is receiving transportation services. So when that notice goes out to a family notifying that they cannot show up the next day because they're still missing their immunizations, please be sure to also notify OSSE with the instructions here as soon as possible, so that there won't be an incident of a school bus still showing up, but the family's already been told not to show up. So make sure to notify both the family and OSSE DOT when the transportation service needs to be paused for that student. And it can be done by emailing dot.parentcallcenter@dc.gov using the subject line, "No shot, no school, suspension of transportation," and providing the information shown here. Again, this will alert OSSE DOT to pause that service so the bus isn't still showing up when the student doesn't need to be there. Next slide. And then again, when the student or the family does submit their missing immunization certification or their documents, then please notify OSSE DOT again to resume the service by emailing the same email inbox using the subject line, "No shot, no school, resume transportation," with the information shown here. And that should be done as soon as possible once you do receive the missing immunization certification. This information is also being presented later today to health points of contact, and we'll also be sharing this information with LEA data liaisons. So we're pumping this information out to anyone who might have crossover to this population. But please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or drop your questions in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, moving on to our reminders and announcements for today. So this is not a new slide, but I want to provide a little more information about this resource for LEAs. In collaboration with LRP, OSSE is providing free special education law training modules to all LEAs. So these courses are online, they're self-paced, and they're available and appropriate for any of your staff. So the trainings cover a wide variety of topics, from behavior to disability-specific information. Please take a look and think about how you can incorporate this very helpful resource into your LEA's professional development plan in the area of special education. We're really encouraging LEAs to utilize this resource to grow special education team members, build capacity for general education teachers and paraprofessionals. Quick note, there are paraprofessional specific trainings available within this training. Also in collaboration with LRP, OSSE is providing a resource. This is not new, but we just want to make sure everybody is aware of this. Legal Resources Publication, LRP, Special Ed Connection. It provides information on federal statutes and regulations, legal cases, federal policies, and news from across the United States related to IDEA. So this is where you can really dig into IDEA and how it is implemented in schools across the country and how it relates to your LEA. OSSE is pleased to share this additional opportunity, which is available to all educators, especially those in general education who serve students with disabilities, and also those serving in special education who are looking to increase skills and knowledge in the area of special ed. So this is also a great course for administrators and service providers. It's completely a synchronous learning opportunity, and it's hosted in OSSE's new LMS, which is our learning management system. So visit the website to learn more and fill out an interest form. I'll also drop a link to this in the chat in a moment. If you have any more information, feel free to reach out or put any questions you might have in the chat. Okay, OSSE has room for a few more schools to join the current cohort for inclusive leaders for this school year. So this opportunity is paid for by OSSE, and it's a school building level program. So please share this information with your school building leadership teams. They can contact Stephen Hamlin for more details, or if they would just like to express interest in joining the cohort. And Stephen's information is included on this slide. The Early Childhood Working Group will be holding its second session, implementing effective child find process on Wednesday, November 2nd from 10 to 11:30. If you have not done so yet, please register for this session using the link on your screen. We're really encouraging LEAs that work with students, 3 to 5-year-olds, to take part in this professional learning community where we share information from OSSE to the LEAs. But also LEAs have an opportunity to share information as well. Any questions? Feel free to reach out to Dawn Hilton. Her information is included on this slide. Okay, if you missed a webinar, we do post recordings of each webinar on our Special Point of Contact website. You can watch previous webinars. You can also download training resources and materials. So if there's staff in your building that were not able to attend, you can certainly share these recordings with them afterwards. Our next SPED POC webinar will take place on Wednesday, November 16th. You can register for the entire series by clicking on the link on this slide. You just need to register once for the series because it is created as one or all. So we had a short webinar for you today, but we would really appreciate any feedback you might have. If you could please complete our survey. There's a link to our Survey Monkey here. You can also use the QR code and access the survey through your phone. Any questions, please let us know. And please, any questions you might have, we have time to answer any questions in the questions section of GoToWebinar. So if you please feel free to put them in the chat.
All right. Hey guys, we have some questions in the chat around who the point of contact is for the ALT assessment. I did send a response to everyone so you guys can see. It's Assad Fulton. That's ASAAD.FULTON@dc.gov. We also got some questions about how to register for tomorrow's LEA engagement session. I dropped a link to that in the chat, not in the questions box. I know there's a lot of things to keep track of, but it's easier to post links in the chat. So there's a link to register there. Stephanie has been answering some one-off questions about OST tickets and transportation issues. If you have any questions for her, go ahead and pop those in there and she'll answer you individually. If you have submitted an OST ticket related to a transportation issue, please provide her with that OST ticket number. But that's pretty much everything that we've had, not a lot of questions.
Okay, thank you, Christy. We will stay on the line for a few more minutes in case anybody has any additional questions. Again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your engagement in this work. Have a great day.